I would like to call to order the study session for the City Council for the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for Monday, April the 7th, 2025. We have three study items on our agenda tonight. Item number one is the 2024 Board and Commissions Annual Report. Item number two is our hotel licensing update. Item number three is the outdoor pool replacement community engagement report. And we will start our meeting off, as we do most meetings, with public's right to speak. This is when members of the public can come at a study session and talk about any item on the agenda. I have no one signed up to speak today in council chambers, and I have no one that is asked to join us online. So we will go past our public's right to speak and go to our item number one, which is the 2024 Boards and Commissions Annual Report. Mr. Goff.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We're excited to bring our second annual, I believe, Board and Commission report to you. We have Cole here to introduce it, and we have a lot of our board members here and who are going to help with the presentations this year. But Cole will start it off.
So this Boards and Commissions Annual Report was developed in response to a request from Council in 2023 to have increased communication between the City Council and our public bodies. Oh, perfect. Thank you. So this 2024 Boards and Commissions Annual Report, it's focused on the 2024 achievements of each of our public bodies, and then gives you a preview of upcoming items they plan to address in 2025. The report details 9 public bodies that consist of about 85 total volunteers. And I think that's a huge testament to the excellency of this community and, a huge testament to our volunteers who are here tonight as well. So thank them for their service. We're very proud to have them here at the City of Wheat Ridge. We are going to pause after each committee's presentation to allow council to ask questions of those committee members or their staff liaison, and then we're going to pause at the end of the presentation if you have any outstanding questions to answer those as well. That's all for me. I'm going to hand it off to our first presenter, Margie Greer with the Election Commission.
Thank you. Again, Cole this year gave me 45 minutes for my presentation, so
You asked for more?
I have 2 slides. It will go fast. I think it will go fast. Let's see. The Election Commission was created by our city charter, and its mission is to develop procedures to establish proof of residency when it's in question regarding voter status, and determine the winner of elections in case there needs to be a lot or a tie vote drawing, and advise on general voting matters. Our 2 members, Alyssa White and Wanda Singh, I can't thank them enough. It's really hard for volunteers to volunteer and then not give them a job. And they've been very willing to serve, but they haven't met. We haven't had a reason to meet. Even though we had a special election in 2024, there weren't any issues around the election at all, so there was no meeting for them to attend. I am going to hold a meeting with them in 2025 within the next few months, just to go over coordinated election procedures with them and keep them informed of the upcoming election we have in 2025. That is really it. I wanted everyone to know, though, that we do have candidate packets available for those who are wanting to run for office in November. And I'm asking anyone who does want to run to please contact the city clerk's office and set up a meeting with me. If it's your first time out there, the paperwork looks a little daunting, and I just want to be able to walk them through them and help them with the process. So, thank you both. all, I mean, very much, thanks to both of our members of the board. And I'm going to turn it over to Jana Easley, who's going to give her presentation on the Board of Adjustment. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. I'm Jana Easley. I'm the planning manager, and I'm also the liaison for the Board of Adjustment, as well as the Planning Commission. Let's see here. And so this evening, I'm going to update you with reports from both the board and the commission. And tonight, from the Board of Adjustment, we do have one board member Troisi is with us, and I appreciate him attending. The Board of Adjustment consists of 8 regular members, 2 from each district, plus 3 alternates. And while the board doesn't meet very frequently, it does have an important role with the city. The board hears and decides on variance requests that exceed the Community Development Director's 50% authority to do so. For example, a reduction from a 20-foot setback to an under 10-foot setback is more than 50%. And those are based on hardship criteria because of something such as an odd-shaped lot, a steep slope, or other unusual constraint on the site. And then also, the board is sometimes asked to make official interpretations of the zoning code, which is Chapter 26. In 2024, the board met twice and heard 2 setback variances, and they also participated in training held by the city attorney. For 2025, we have no cases yet, but we may still have some cases on the agenda in the coming months. So with that, I thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, questions from council? Looks like you were very thorough. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, next I'll move on to the Planning Commission. Tonight we do have 3 commissioners here with me. Commissioner Disney, actually Vice Chair Disney, Commissioner Wood, and Commissioner Hedges. The Planning Commission is also made up of 8 commissioners, 2 from each district. And they meet regularly to hear land use cases and code amendments. Their purpose is also to create and from time to time amend and implement the city's comprehensive plan. And that's actually pursuant to state code. In their quasi-judicial role, the commission makes recommendations to City Council on land use cases such as outline development plans and rezonings, and they also are the final decision maker on specific development plans and type 2 subdivisions. In their legislative capacity, they make recommendations to the City Council on amendments to Chapter 26, which is our zoning and development code. In 2024, the commission heard a variety of cases, including 3 specific development plans, 2 outline development plans, 6 zone changes, 2 resolutions for creating urban renewal areas, and held 5 study sessions to discuss the Lutheran Legacy Campus zoning framework and the city plan updates. They also heard several zoning code amendments, including those to electric vehicle and bicycle parking and storage, an update to the public notification requirements, new landscape regulations, the Lutheran Legacy Campus mixed-use zoning regulations, and natural medicine regulations. In early 2025, the commission made a recommendation in February on the Lutheran Legacy Campus rezoning, which council will hear on the 14th. And the commission will continue to advise on the city plan and consider its adoption in mid-2025. So with that, again, thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the Planning Commission.
Councilor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your presentation. I was just wondering if does the Planning Commission also get the training from our city attorney, Dahl?
Yes, they do, on an annual or biannual basis.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? Looks like once again you had a pretty thorough,
That was easy.
these people are smart.
Yes, very much, and I very much appreciate both the Board of Adjustment volunteers and the Planning Commission volunteers. They do great work.
We appreciate their work also. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, let's see here. That's the last slide of my presentation that I didn't get to, but with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alex for the IDEA Committee. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alex Gouldsmith, and I'm being accompanied by Lynn Brown. And this is going to be the first time that we're actually presenting as the IDEA Committee because we launched this past fall. We launched because the Race and Equity Task Force was created in 2020 by the City Council, and the members were appointed in February of 2021. We met every 2 weeks from February 2021 to April 2023. We created and presented a City Council recommendation report which included 11 focus areas and 100+ recommendations. These recommendations also created the IDEA Advisory Committee, and our first members were appointed in August 2024, with our first meeting taking place in September. The IDEA Committee advises the City and City Council on policies and practices to make Wheat Ridge a more inclusive, diverse, equitable, and accessible community. Being part of the IDEA Committee is an exciting opportunity for me to continue learning and growing with Wheat Ridge. And since I was a part of the Race and Equity Task Force, this committee holds an important place for me to continue the work I set out to accomplish back in 2021. I'm going to hand it off to Carly to announce our members.
Hello, I'm Carly Seba. I'm the Manager of People and Culture, along with Marianne Schilling. We are the staff liaisons to the IDEA Committee. Our members from District 1 is Morgan Richards, District 2, Jay Kim, District 3, Cindy Chang, District 4, Lynn Browning, and then we have 4 at-large members and 1 vacancy right now. Our at-large members are Gretchen Treffs, Tara Greer, Alex Gouldsmith, Edward Nepomuceno, and Lynn Carter, and our council liaison is Jenny Snell.
Good evening. I'm going to highlight some of our achievements. As you know, you appointed this council, and so we've been up and running this year. We also had our first members appointed and a new set of members that were recently appointed. So our group is growing, and as you heard, we have a spot available. And we also participated in the holiday tree lighting, where we set up a table and got to meet some people in the community, conducted a survey. And we have set a work plan where we've identified some different areas based off of those recommendations in the task force. And we've developed different pods where we're working outside of our regular meeting, where we're developing more objectives and tasks to achieve our goals. So personally, as like Alex said, it is an honor to be on this committee. It's great to be able to work with a diverse panel of committee members from all across the community. And each of us have the goal of furthering inclusiveness in Wheat Ridge. Our members are widely involved throughout the committee and demonstrate ongoing commitment to support council in achieving goals related to inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. Questions?
Questions from council? Councilor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for your presentation. Alex, I'm just wondering, being that you were on the task force and now you're on the committee, and you guys are new and you're off and running, do you feel like it's going kind of down the pathway that the task force had anticipated and had hoped it would go?
I think that we have a lot of work still to do, but so far in 2025, we are committed to creating an equity lens that will reflect what the Race and Equity Task Force did as well. And this equity lens will help build out the framework to help continue our work in 2025. A lot of this work will focus on economic opportunity, affordable housing, and human resources, and these focuses were taken directly from the report itself.
Great, thank you.
Additional questions? Councilor Hulteen.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to thank all of the members and staff liaisons for the IDEA Committee. It's important work, and I'm really excited that we have initiated it here. And I know it's long work and incremental work, but there are times when that work needs to be more urgent and at the forefront. And I just feel like we're better positioned as a city and as a community to be more responsive to our community's needs. So I just really want to thank everyone for stepping up. And I know starting something from scratch takes time, especially in an area like this that we're really emerging and kind of finding our way in. So I just want to thank everyone. I know some of these are big, hard conversations, and we're just really grateful that you are taking them on, and we look forward to more updates and hearing more from you as we continue to develop the relationship. Thank you so much.
Any additional questions? Thank you very much.
Now you get the joy to hear from me again. I am part of the Community Partnership Grant Program, and my name is Alex Goldsmith, if you didn't remember. The Community Partnership Grant Program supports local nonprofit agencies and organizations that benefit and improve the health and wellness of the Wheat Ridge residents. Being a part of the growth of this program just over the last 2 years has been an incredible opportunity. I now have a better understanding of the community and resources in the city, and continue to learn about new local programs filling the many needs of our residents. This committee reviewed 43 applications in 2024, representing $382,000 of requested funds. This was an increase from 2023, with an additional 15 organizations applying. The committee was able to evaluate each request and recommended a total of $200,000 to be awarded, though this total was reduced by 10% later due to budget constraints. In 2025, the CPGP committee will implement a new 2-part review process that will streamline the evaluation of smaller grants. This will, in turn, provide more time to review the larger requests. Our timeline has also been shifted to later in the year to align more closely with the city's budget process. This will ensure that applicants and the committee will have a clearer understanding of available funding when we start our yearly work. Also, there have been new rules that have been implemented to safeguard against organizations double dipping into the city's budget. Do you have any questions for the CPGP committee?
Counselor Hoppy.
I'm full of questions tonight, I suppose. When are you guys opening that application window, now that it's been moved a little bit closer towards the budget process?
We plan to open the application in early June and close late July. So it'll be a 2-month window. We're going to have a webinar at the beginning of that cycle for interested organizations, and the video will be available, posted on the city website as a resource. And we're currently working with our communications department to make sure that we're really spreading the word out in the community and make sure all the organizations in our community have an equal shot at those funds.
Thank you.
Counselor Hulteen.
Cole, I may need you again. As part of this process, we also talked about reducing the application burden for community members and like creating sort of a tiered approach possibly of lower application, like smaller dollar applications being a little bit easier and some of the higher dollar ones to maybe be more 2-step. Are you guys revisiting how you guys are doing the application, or are you still staying with this same application type and just doing it later with a webinar?
Yeah, so we're implementing that 2-tier, 2-part review process. The application is similar in some ways, but there are some tweaks that are really intended to get at need of organizations. So this year, we're going to be asking them specifically, if you don't get these dollars, what happens? Do you have to go ask someone else for the dollars? Are you going to fund this through your own budget? Does that service just go away? So the application has been retooled, really focused on that. And we're also still considering some changes and adjustments as we are implementing the new review process.
Great. Thanks for answering that question. And I just want to recognize across the different boards and commissions and committees, there's sort of different levels of service. And this one in particular just stands out in that it's an entire year's worth in like 2 months. And it's really time intensive when the time comes. So folks who serve on this, I really have a lot of appreciation for, because they really put in a lot of time in a very short period of time, and really translates into great benefits to our community. I just am so proud that this is something our city does, and really appreciative for the work that this committee does. So thank you for putting in the time when the time comes.
All right, any additional questions for Alex? Alex, you may be off the hook, or maybe.
Yeah, no, I'm off
maybe
the
you have
hook.
another
I'm going to hand it off to the
presentation.
Sustainability Committee.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Hester. I am the Sustainability Coordinator, and I am the staff liaison to the Sustainable Wheat Ridge Committee. So the mission of this committee is for them to advise the city on matters pertaining to environmental sustainability and promoting sustainability programs to residents and businesses within the city through engagement and outreach, so a multifaceted approach. These are some pictures here on the left and middle from our annual events that we hold, Yard Waste Composting Weekend and an e-waste event. And then on the right here, we'll talk a little bit more about it, but we've got a new native demonstration garden that came online last year with one of our sustainable neighborhoods. Okay, so in terms of the makeup of this committee, there are members on the screen here. We do have our District 3 seat open right now, which we're actively recruiting to fill that. We recently, at our March meeting, onboarded 3 new members from District 1, 2, and 4 seats, and then we have Councilmember Hulteen as our council liaison, and she's a great resource for us. This committee meets once a month, and they work on projects outside of the committee, so we'll get to that in our 2025 slide. But first, we'll talk about last year. Last year, we brought on 5 new members to Sustainable Wheat Ridge, so that was exciting. And then these next 2 bullet points were our 2 main projects for the year. So as you know, we got the new Sustainability Action Plan adopted last October. After about a 9 or 10 month effort, we added 2 new focus areas in that, and so now the committee is kind of in the implementation stage as far as that plan goes. And then we also wrapped up the residential waste engagement project last November after about an 18-month public engagement effort. And so the committee in both of those projects was really helpful in just kind of helping to get the word out to the community, attending events with these projects, and helping us to review project materials. We also hosted our annual events. We hosted an e-waste recycling event. We supported a paint recycling event that someone else was hosting. We had our annual yard waste compost weekend. And then we had a couple of members of Sustainable Wheat Ridge volunteer at the holiday celebration to manage zero waste stations, which is one of our goals this year to make more of an impact as far as that goes. We also applied and got accepted into the Green Business Program. That was a big effort of the committee in 2023. So we now locally administer that program. There's a subcommittee on the committee right now working to do outreach to businesses and get them to join the program so that we can connect them with resources and help them to green their business practices. The committee also presented the 4th annual Green Business Award last year to Chi'il Indigenous Foods, which encourages people to kind of connect with their food, plant native foods where it makes sense for you to grow food where you live. They also provided pretty substantial research to staff last year while the EV parking and bike parking amendments were going through the code amendment process. We also have several members on Sustainable Wheat Ridge who live in one of our 4 sustainable neighborhoods. They are very active on their neighborhood leadership teams. And I think the big accomplishment last year, we had 2 neighborhoods, Panorama Park and Paramount Park, create 2 new native plant demonstration gardens. So they worked really hard with the Parks Department to design those, to plant those. Now they're maintaining them and focusing on education. All right, so looking at 2025, earlier this year, we presented a climate emergency resolution to you all. That was the first big thing that we were able to implement from our new sustainability action plan. So the committee was very helpful in drafting that and helping me to edit that. We're also full steam ahead. Next steps for the residential waste engagement project. So we'll be coming back to you in May with an update there. And then I'm working right now to baseline our municipal waste, energy, and water data across properties. And then I'll be looking for the committee to help me figure out what sort of reduction targets we might want to set. All right, we are also, of course, continuing to support the Sustainable Neighborhoods program. Like I mentioned, there's a subcommittee who is working to expand participation in our green business program and really get that off the ground, continuing to focus on hosting events. And then we've got another subcommittee working on green events. So they are putting together a guide that will help us when we're planning events, but then also looking to provide zero waste stations at some of our city events, like the holiday celebration or the Easter egg hunt. I'm also going to add an invisible bullet point that we've got 2 other subcommittees working on planting, helping parts with their tree planting grant, and then just looking at how we can kind of get people aware of like native plants, get them excited, showcase people's yards and gardens. So they've got some fun ideas. And I think that is it. I'm available for questions.
Okay, questions from council? Councilor Hulteen.
I don't have any questions, just as the liaison, I just, the enthusiasm and spirit of this group is just fantastic. They are really bringing a lot of like creativity and rolling up their sleeves, and I love it because a lot of this stuff is stuff that shows up literally in our neighborhoods and is something that's directly impacting a lot of people and our planet. So just grateful for the work that both the committee members put in and Mary puts in, and we are looking forward to filling that District 3 position with yet more energy and creativity. Sometimes we have too much energy and creativity, and we have to come down and back down to earth a little bit. But it's good work, and just I'm excited that we have so many good things to report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from Mary? No? Great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'll hand it over to the Parks and Rec Commission.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, friends and neighbors of Wheat Ridge. My name is Andy Rasmussen, and I am here on behalf of the Parks and Rec Commission, for which I am the chair. We have 8 members, 2 from each of the 4 districts of Wheat Ridge. Ralph Haben, Ryan Hester, Christine Saman, I'm going to butcher that. Sorry. What she said. Kathy Weisbrod. Christine and Kathy are both in the back here with me. Thank you for being here. Kathy Konis and Mark Duty from District 3, Pat Cervera, and myself both live in Fruitdale in District 4. There's Pat as well. Thank you for being here, Pat. I like being on the Parks and Rec Commission, and I want to list off the names of the Parks and Rec Commission just so hopefully more people are aware in the community of who we are. Please seek us out, look for us. We're generally at a lot of events around town. Please come talk to us if you've got ideas about how we could make Parks and Rec better in Wheat Ridge. We have, one of the big things we've been working on is updating the pathway for the Parks and Rec Commission overall. There's a consultant that's come in and talked to us a few times, just updating us on the plan and how it's going, and giving feedback on that, digesting it as it comes, working with Karen to make suggestions or tweak it in ways that we think need to be done. We also have been drafting a lot of letters in support for various grant programs, in support of Brandon's amazing efforts on behalf of the city to bring in money for a lot of our projects. We've had a Leave No Trace workshop. We've done that the past couple of years, just going through the concepts of Leave No Trace for the Parks and Rec Commission to understand. A lot of things work for city parks. Some parts of it are not, but it's a great pathway to try to follow. Shoot for the moon. If you miss, you'll land amongst the stars, sort of a thing. We had a great presentation from the School of Mines team. A bunch of kids came and talked to us about an update, some work that was being done in Creekside Park, stabilizing a hillside there that had been experiencing some pretty heavy erosion. It was really impressive what these students brought to the table. They had put a lot into this, and some very bright minds had obviously put a lot of thought into it. It was really cool to see. We've been at every year, this is, I don't know, my 4th or 5th year on the commission. Every year we do the parks tour. We get a little bus and Benny drives us around. We go to a handful of different parks around town. We generally go to the community garden. We wind up at the Richards Hart Estate and have a meal and just sit and talk about what we saw and what we think about the parks, and then generally end it with spitballing about what parks we could go and visit next year. A lot of times it'll involve parks that have ongoing projects going on, so we can see firsthand, what's going on. It's a cool thing to participate in, and it's a great sort of field trip for the Parks and Rec team to get out and see some of the facilities that we have in the city, which are, of course, very impressive. And then we've gone to a lot of events over the year, as a lot of the other commissions have as well, just going and staffing tables to interact with the community and look for feedback on the different things we've got going on. It's a great opportunity to interact with the community. Moving forward, we're looking to wrap up the update on the pathway. And we're soon going to be holding elections for chair and vice chair. Vote for Andy. And then we've got a lot of ongoing projects that we're looking forward to both breaking ground and wrapping up. So a lot of good stuff going on. Always new ideas coming in. So I think that's it for, oh no. More upcoming stuff. More supporting Brandon in his ongoing heroic efforts to bring in more grants to the city through GoCo Colorado, various groups are all around the state and beyond. City events, ribbon cuttings, and more engagement opportunities. I think we'll still be tabling more events around the city. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Andy. Questions for Andy on the Parks and Recreation Commission, excuse me. All right, good job, Andy.
Thank you very
Great
much.
committee.
I now invite my friend Kathleen to the stand.
Thank you. I'm Kathleen Martell. I am the chair of the Cultural Commission for 2 more days. So thank you for having us all here tonight and the opportunity to talk about our boards and commissions. I think you all know how much I love to promote the Wheat Ridge Cultural Commission. So of course, I'm very excited for this opportunity. Before I start my 2024 recap, I would like to thank our commissioners who've made all the work we're going to talk about possible. Sandra and Jeff are both here. I'd also like to thank Susie Anderson, our city liaison. She is amazing to work with, and she has supported us so much. We're coming off a couple years of a lot of storming and transition and redefining what we're doing, and she has been amazing. And I'd also like to thank some of our other partners in the city that we work with on the regular, including Therese Madrill, Daniel Moore, and Beth June. Let's see here. So our mission is to promote artistic endeavors within the city by encouraging an appreciation for arts and culture, developing and recommending cultural programming to the city council, and seeking community input and advice on the management of public art. Here is a list of our commissioners. We have 2 from each district and 1 at large. And we've also included their roles within the Cultural Commission here. So I'll kind of go through the slides, but as you'll see from our slides and our annual report, I cannot possibly present all of our accomplishments and be respectful of our 10-minute allocated time. I hope to give you the highlights and then can answer any questions, and encourage you all to follow us on social media to just keep up with what we're up to. In 2024, the Cultural Commission held 11 monthly meetings. We skip our July meeting so that we can have a social gathering at performances in the park. And outside of our meetings, We did a rough estimate of the time we've spent with the Cultural Commission, and between the 9 commissioners, we estimated 1,250 hours in 2024. That breaks down to an average of 140 hours per commissioner, or 12 hours each month outside of our monthly meeting. So as you can see, we are very active and engaged commission. Looking at our achievements, some highlights from our connectivity pillar, which is led by Brendan Kelly with Beth Kelly and Megan Rumley on support. They organized 2 mixers in 2024. One was at Clear Creek Makerspace with over 40 attendees, the other at Little Brazil with over 50. Our mixers accounted for $1,200 of our annual budget. We also participated in city programming, including performances in the park, the extra special Easter egg hunt, which is this picture. We had a Jeep trunk at Trunk or Treat, and we also participated in the holiday celebration. We joined with multiple creative organizations based in Wheat Ridge to walk in the Wheat Ridge Carnation Festival parade, and we held Paint with a Commissioner chats while painting the Clear Creek Makerspace mural. $1,900 of our annual budget went towards these activities and handouts for these events. Our programming pillar, led by Vice Chair Celia Daly with Kathy Plummer on support, hosted one huge call for art last year. We received over 63 submissions from 34 artists, with at least one piece being purchased from each submitter, thereby allowing artists to be paid for their work. And this accounted for $2,500 of our annual budget. We hosted 2 art drop programs and featured 30 city parks or open spaces, 30 artists, the rec center, and 4 local business partners. We also established a rotating display of art in the Wheat Ridge Rec Center lobby, allowing for exposure for local artists. The community grant fund pillar, led by Lindsay Burney with Jeff Richards as support, managed 2 different grant cycles. We received 15 applications, funded 12 of them, and allocated $4,500 in reimbursement funds towards creative and enrichment activities in our city. And here's an overview of all the grant recipients. In 2024 was our first year with a proactive focus on social media and communications, which was led by Sandra Davis. We built a Wheat Ridge Cultural Commission email list, sending periodic calls for art, calls for grant applications, mixer invitations, and participation opportunities. We submitted monthly content to the Wheat Ridge Creates email newsletter, revamped the Wheat Ridge Cultural Commission page on the city's website with updated and ADA compliant content, and ended our year with 266 Instagram followers, 956 Facebook followers, and 260 members on our email list. We had several other achievements that you can see here in our annual report, but I really felt it was important to highlight the work of our pillars because all of our pillars are led by different commissioners with support from the community. So looking forward to 2025, later this week we will be electing new officers, so I'll be stepping down as chair, but not stepping away from the commission. And I'm looking forward for somebody else to step up and see what new exciting things we can bring on board. One of our upcoming for 2025 was a mixer opportunity with the Legacy Lutheran Art. We actually had that in February. We auctioned off, or we didn't auction, we gave away art from the Legacy Lutheran campus and accepted donations, and we raised over $1,300 that will go directly to our grant program that will be able to fund artistic and creative endeavors in the city over the next couple of years. We will continue to have mixer events, art drops, and grant programs. We plan to expand these programs to include more interactive and experiential art and art forms and opportunities. We're updating our call process for both art and grants to ensure a broader reach and that the application for each program is not a barrier to participation. We plan to develop a communication calendar, activate a network of volunteers for each pillar, and try to maintain our high level of engagement. So with that, that is our wrap up. Any questions?
Okay, questions on Cultural Commission? Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Not a question, but just a compliment I follow you guys on social media, and I've been to several of your mixers. You guys throw a heck of a party. But it's just really impressive to see, and some of our other boards and commissions as well, really getting engaged with the public and our sustainability and some of the other, really engaging the public and letting them know what you guys are doing. And it's really fantastic. And you saw that in all your accomplishments this year. So thank you for your leadership. But thank you to all of our boards and commission members, because you guys do a lot of really hard work. And I think some of us, we get all the credit, but you guys really get to do all the hard work, and you bring recommendations forward, and you're really a big part of everything that the city does. So thank you to all of you, but that really shows a lot of that in what you presented. So thank you.
Thank you, Corey.
Counselor Hulteen.
Thank you. That's incredibly impressive. And I think, first of all, thank you for your leadership, Kathleen, in the last couple days that we have you. But I think as your presentation has demonstrated, you guys are doers and get a lot done, and it shows. And I think the one thing I really want to acknowledge is that under your leadership, you've really taken this from a city cultural commission to a community cultural commission, and you've really translated the arts to ways that are accessible to our community and supporting art and artists in our community. And I think that just is something that I'm really excited about, and I think really is translated to why people love calling Wheat Ridge home and why people get really excited about what's next. So I'm really looking forward to what your successor comes up with, but I'm really just grateful for what you've brought to our city. It just has changed the quality of arts in our community. So thank you. And thank you everyone for those 1 gazillion hours that you've put in.
It felt like a gazillion, yes. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So concludes our presentations from our public bodies tonight. If you have any lingering questions for committee members, you could take them now, or if you have any feedback about the report presentation or any general questions, be happy to take those as well. But if not, thank you to everyone who came here tonight. Thank you to all of our presenters.
Okay, don't leave. Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor. And a big thank you to all the committees and commissions. And Cole, appreciate having this type of venue where we can see them all, and have everybody talk and show us what you've done. I think it's really important to me and to the community to kind of see that, get that kind of feedback, and with my fellow council members. I know it's a lot of work. I've served on the planning commission, and I appreciate everything everybody does. I'm really looking forward to new art installations coming down the road. Thank you.
Counselor Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to all our volunteers also. I know it takes many hands to make light work, and we wouldn't have such a dynamic community if we didn't have all of you volunteering in these positions to help us really grow our community. So thank you.
Counselor Hulteen.
I know I've just been saying thanks a lot tonight, but a couple years ago, we requested this type of presentation, and I think it's in part because a lot of the work that's done in our boards and commissions is really valuable and has high impact, but is sometimes invisible. And the last couple of years, we've really worked as a council in partnership with staff and our community to make the work more visible and more celebrated, and really trying to recruit so that we don't have fatigue on the committees, so that everyone can stay energized and not drained. And so tonight, I think it's really great to see all of it presented at once. I hope it doesn't feel like busy work. But I think also a presentation like this is also really helpful for community members like me 10 years ago who are like, how can I get involved? And to have a better, just more tangible, you can say, oh, watch the city council meeting, which nobody's going to probably go back and watch it. But to have a presentation that like has it all in one place, to make it really visible and to just see the value of the work really ensures that next year and the following year that we continue to be able to work with our boards and commissions, but also continue to recruit high quality people, because as it says in our lobby, we are only as good as the people who participate in our government. And tonight is, to me, the hallmark of that. So thank you all for your work. We're all better for it. And may we all have fun at the barbecue this summer. So celebrate that. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Big thank you again to everybody. Just one question maybe to Cole, and then I guess if anybody else needs to jump in. We've done a lot of changes over the last year or so to the process for being on boards, commissions, term limits, all that stuff. Do you foresee any other changes coming in the next year?
Yeah, we've had some time for those changes to marinate, if you so will. So I think we're getting close to the point where we're ready to go back out to our boards, commissions, committees, talk to them about how those changes have been implemented, and see if there's any other changes that need to happen as a result.
Thank you.
Councilor Dozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would like to recognize and thank all of the board and commissioners who make Wheat Ridge a wonderful place to live. If it weren't for all of you contributing your time, talent, and treasures, we wouldn't have all of the work that's been laid and that helps make our community vibrant. So I just really want to thank each and every one of you. It's a testament to just your engagement and involvement in the place that you call home and that you truly care about. So just wanted to thank all of you for that.
Councilor Weaver.
I'm going to thank all of you as well. I also want to encourage all of you to think about what's next for you, because I know that we all tend to stay on the commissions that we sort of identify with. And one thing that I've learned, because I went from planning commission, which is sort of in my area of interest, and then council, but from this angle, you get to see what all of the commissions do. So I really encourage you all. You all are the people that are involved, and we'd love to keep you involved. And so, get to know other commissions. For those of you, I didn't realize that we had, I sort of take planning so seriously, and I know those of you on the planning commission know how I feel, because it's like, yeah, we're changing the world with planning code. And but I want to be on cultural commission when I'm done with this, and I want to do some other things. And so I just really thank you, all of you, and I hope you'll try some other commission when you're done with the one that you're having fun with now. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I want to say, Cole, thank you very much. Great presentation. I want to thank all of you for coming and talking and for the work that you do in our city. And I know from looking at you and seeing your names around town that a lot of you already are doing a number of other things around town. So we appreciate the work that you do. You contribute to making our city the best city in the state of Colorado. So thanks all for being here and for a great report. All right. With that, I think we're going to go on to our second agenda item. I think we're teeing it up right now. Deputy Mayor, Deputy Manager.
Oh.
I'll tell you, someday you're going to take me out of my misery. Okay. All right. Thank you. I tell you, I can do that every time.
You ready to go?
It's a Mayor Manager. I'm ready to go.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. We are here this evening to provide an update on our hotel licensing program. As you remember, in 2021, you all adopted an ordinance to create a licensing program, and part of that ordinance required a regular update, and we're here to do that this evening. A lot has happened since 2021, a lot of positive things. We're very proud of where we've come, and we have Allie Scheck, our Deputy City Manager, Mayor, and our Deputy Dog Chief is here to provide those updates.
Thank you so much for having us. We are not going to be as much fun as that. Sorry, that was a really wonderful and inspiring presentation. Isn't that incredible to see? We've come such a long way. So thank you. for your support with the Boards and Commissions program. But we're here tonight to talk about the hotel ordinance, the hotel licensing program. This will be really brief, but we're here, the code that we adopted requires that we come and give you an update every 18 months. So we're here to do that today. The last time that we were here was in August of 2023, and at that time we did have some code amendment recommendations for you all, and we don't have that this evening. So I'll get started, and then I'll turn it over to the chief, who I just have a real brief presentation that sort of follows along with the staff memo up on the screen there. So just a little bit of a reminder about how this is a big deal. This program is a really big deal. This took decisive action from the council, and it's taken a lot of leadership from our city manager and others. We've come a really long way in the 6 years that we have been talking about this and working on this. So conversations first started for the hotel licensing program back in 2019, specifically around extended stay. And Councilor Hoppe is like, yes, I remember every single moment of these conversations over the last 6 years. And it was in 2021 that council gave us direction to draft a hotel licensing ordinance. And I know, Chief, I should sort of say in the middle of this, that we hired this chief in 2020, who during the community input session really heard a lot from the community and around, what are you going to do? to turn around, especially the area around I-70 and Kipling. Anyway, council provided direction to draft a hotel licensing ordinance back in 2021, which we put out to the community and to the business community for feedback. And then in October of that same year, you passed Ordinance 1723, which enacted the hotel licensing program. As I mentioned, we came back in August of 2023 with some recommendations. And just as a reminder as to what those code amendments were that you adopted, it was clarifying that operating without an extended stay addendum is a violation of the hotel licensing program, and that there are certain annual renewal requirements that had to be completed annually. For example, attending, I think, Chief, it's the crime-free hotel program training, making sure that that's an annual requirement, and then also further defining the length of stay. We won an award for this program a couple of years ago. I want you all to know, we started off meeting back in 2021. There were 2 teams, each meeting twice a month, sort of a licensing and enforcement team and a human services team. We still today have a cross-functional team meeting monthly. That includes city management or city leadership, obviously the police department, chief's crew, communications, community development, licensing staff, economic development is really represented in this. And we have not taken our foot off the gas in implementing this licensing program to really transform an area of our community, an area of our city that was really struggling. So I don't see an end to this work. I think this work, when Brene Brown says paint done, I'm not sure there's a done, but tonight you're going to hear about the progress that we've made. So as a reminder, a hotel license costs $300. There's no additional license cost for an extended stay addendum, which permits stays greater than 29 days. And that is because the investment it would take a hotel to make those requirements, to meet those requirements, is significant. It would require building permits and construction. So we don't charge for that. We don't actually have any extended stay addendums approved in the city. But in general, in order to obtain an annual hotel license, hotels must maintain a calls for service rate of 1.5 or below. Chief's going to get into that. Comply with an annual hotel inspection, comply with the city's landscape inspection program, comply with the applicable building codes, have a current security plan on file with the Wheat Ridge PD. They may not offer guest stays of more than 29 days. And again, they have to obtain an extended stay addendum to allow stays. And that really requires having separate sleeping and living quarters in each suite, a minimum square footage, some cooking facilities, ability to some sort of restaurant, and then some other amenities like laundry, or a pool or a conference room, but sort of things that somebody who's living somewhere might want. And I'll turn it over to the chief.
Thanks, Sally. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just want to start, before I get into all these remarks, to say if I was approached at the beginning of my tenure about the I-70 Kipling and the hotel issue, without really a whole-of-government approach, I don't think we'd be sitting before you tonight talking about success. Probably quite the opposite, to be honest with you, with all the other challenges that have come up in the 5 years that I've been here. But I will say that it's been a pleasure, and when I look and reflect on this, every year we get it, or every 18 months, we get a chance to reflect on it, and I see that while it's incremental over that time, it's really huge when you look at it in the aggregate. So how do we quantify and monitor the level of criminal activity at our hotels? The best way is calls for service. Although we do measure it in other ways, we have our calls for service rate, the total number of calls for service divided by the total number of rooms in an applicable period. That's one rolling calendar year generally. Qualified calls for service include police assistance that are generated by the community, in other words, not generated by us. We don't want to just prop up the numbers because we're active in a certain area. Disturbances, crime reports, suspicious vehicles or people, generally calls around those type of incidents. Calls we don't count, 911 calls without a police response, for example, medical or fire calls, and calls that we initiate, maybe a traffic stop in the parking lot, or any call we receive for a hotel that participates in what was the severe weather shelter network. On those days, we don't count any of the calls, whether they're there as part of the severe weather shelter network or not. It is sort of the benefit of being a participant in that program. So that is how we get to the numbers we get to, which is the next slide. I was reflecting on the 2023 versus 2024 calls for service, but looking at the 2022 numbers, and I thought, well, this has really been a long slug to get here. And when you get to the 2024 numbers and you compare them to really when we started in 2022, I think it's a little bit shocking to see how much the calls for service, the crime numbers have come down. This is probably an overstatement because we do subtract so many numbers from where we started, but to give the benefit of the doubt to the business owners where we can. But it is really quite remarkable, and it is bought back a lot of our patrol time to go elsewhere. So we see a 28.5% reduction in criminal complaints and criminal activity within about a quarter mile of the hotel district that we draw a line around. For us, that's huge. 28% of what is an area where we've probably spent, and half of our shift time is really a lot of time we're being able to buy back. So very pleased to talk about that. The reduction in crimes, calls for service in Wheat Ridge hotels is down more than half since the license ordinance went into effect. Down more than half, and I have to sometimes tell myself, that is possible, that is probable, that is actually happening. And that is really something that our new officers aren't really familiar with because they don't know the hotels like some of our folks who have been here for 15, 20 years know the hotels. They just think of it as another business, which I think is fantastic. Eventually, I think our community will look at it the same way, although we do understand that it takes a while for the historical knowledge to wear off when you have something that's been that impactful to a community. So our allocated time decreased from 10% to 4%, really less than that. That was a number we didn't want to skimp on, but I think it's closer to 3%. So that's a huge reduction in the amount, and that was the intent from our bubble. Yes, we operated in the larger city bubble, but from a safety and security standpoint, from a resource management, we wanted to see that number come down, and it is probably more than exceeded what I thought was possible when we started this. So we're able to get into the neighborhoods and focus on other areas. So as we look at those numbers and you see a 0.17 or a 0.05, that is a remarkable number for any hotel, whether it's an economy hotel or not. I think it's a tribute to the collaborative work, but it's also a tribute to the fact that the current ownership of some of these hotels have adopted our city values and are now participating in a way that I think we would all find acceptable we're generally find acceptable across the board. We have 7 hotels currently operating. I think we used to say 8, but now that the Ville, formerly the Best Interstate, no longer has nightly rooms, we don't consider that a hotel. So La Quinta, Comfort Inn, Holiday Inn Express, Apple Inn and Suites, and the Super 8. Motel 6 was one of our biggest challenge, I think, in the last year. We really utilized this ordinance to, I think, full effect to say, hey, these are the things we're seeing over at your business. This is how you get there. And we didn't get a lot of attention from that business, to be perfectly honest, until government circled around and said, hey, you've got to really take this serious or there's going to be consequences for it. And that's, I think, what the council really understood when you crafted this ordinance, that we have to put consequences with bad actors. Motel 6 really came to the table at the end after a lot of cajoling. Instituted security plans, including fencing around these, some of the fencing you can see there with gate access, camera systems, lighting, requiring government ID and no cash for rooms, but rather having to have credit card, and making this a very, meeting the qualifications that are specified under some of their trade organizations that say these are best practices. Wasn't things that we just came up with. They said these are the best practices in the industry. We were sensitive to folks who were struggling, and I think we struck a good balance there. So all of the ordinance has had an effect on all of the hotels, some with much greater impact than others, but everybody is aware. We saw the American hire private security. That made a difference. Just a couple of other stats that we were able to pull up this afternoon. 50% reduction, more than a 50% reduction in recovered stolen vehicles. We were known as the place you go to find your recovered stolen vehicle for all jurisdictions. We don't. Yeah.
I thought that was a great benefit.
It's something, but it's not great. If you're the chief of police, we don't. I always get marked down by Patrick every year for that one, so I'm expecting better this year. More than 40% reduction in the number of outside agencies that conduct follow-up interviews. So they used to, outside agencies would always look to us to find those kind of bank robber criminals holed up in our hotels. And we don't see that. They know that it's just not fruitful anymore to go looking over there. And then we couldn't pull up the numbers, but in talking to some of our drug task force and the human trafficking, we've seen quite a reduction in those. I don't have specific numbers, but they're not spending nearly enough time up there. So our participation in the drug task force was almost exclusively because they could go to the hotels and do their work. We don't have a lot of drug kingpins in the middle of Wheat Ridge. Generally, we have folks at the hotels, and we don't see that anymore. So that's a good thing that we're not using the task force in that way generally. So those are some of the benefits that I think that really are tangible that we see every day, and we know are out there because we're able to go in the neighborhoods and work there. All in all, a huge positive and a kudos to everybody who participated, and I think there's a lot of credit to go around, but really Ally and Patrick, their wherewithal and the ability to have the discipline to stay with this and the council nerve to stay with it has made this quite an outcome for us. So we're happy. So I'll turn it back over to Ally.
Yeah, we'll just touch on, the last thing we mentioned on that slide is we know the Hampton Inn, so that will, we think about the hotel landscape in Wheat Ridge is potentially shifting a little bit with Clear Creek Crossing. So Hampton Inn, it's vertical, it's looking good.
Lauren, June-ish at this point.
June-ish. So we're later, early summer, that should open. And then we know that there's potentially a second hotel coming to Clear Creek Crossing. So that's something we may start to see happen next year. Yeah, so, some shifts. But let's talk a little bit about the American, and Patrick can jump in here too. So it's really, this is exciting. It's, we're in the Terrapin Hospitality, who owns the Holiday Inn Express right now in Wheat Ridge, bought this property from the former owners. So that's the current property at the top, and then below is the proposed multifamily that will go in there. I know that it's been, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern, waiting for Excel to complete a power upgrade to that site before the new owner is willing to close on it and get started. Is that right? Mr.
Yeah,
Bach?
that's essentially it. I've been talking to, I think, a few of you over the last several months about the issues we've been struggling with Excel. It's not just Wheat Ridge, but it's the whole state, probably the whole country, where power grid's not up to speed. And Colorado has been growing quite substantially over the last several decades. So there's just not power available. For the hotel, for the American specifically, what we're waiting on is final approval from CDOT, because the upgrade will go through CDOT right away. So they have to approve it. And as Ally mentioned, they want to make sure that they know what the construction schedule is going to be for Excel, so that they know when they can start building. They don't have to have the upgrade done to start building, but they want to make sure that when the building's ready to open, the upgrade's done. So we're still waiting on that schedule from Excel and CDOT, hopefully any day now. But it did cost that project over $400,000 to upgrade the power. The hotel, the new hotel, Hampton Inn Suites, it was about $600,000 upgrade out there as well. So there is an impact to the Excel issue, but it's we're slogging along and being patient. And the chief comes to me every day, when are we tearing that building down? And unfortunately, I have to tell him another week or so, but it's coming. Tell him to be patient, but it's coming.
Thank you. Yeah, so really exciting. And then the last point is just, we took a real, we took a very sort of human services centered approach to this work, as you all know. And so just as a reminder, Mary Ann's here and was a big part of this and led this team. You all approved a partnership with Family Tree using ARPA dollars. And so we were able to place 40 households and that's 64 individuals into long-term permanent housing through that partnership with Family Tree. They're very good at that. There were a lot of people, more than we thought, different than we thought, and for longer than we thought, living in some of these places, a network of crock pots and extension cords and oxygen machines and what ends up actually being a very expensive housing solution when you're on a week-to-week basis. And Family Tree, it was tough for them too, because it was a population, it was an older population than they thought. There were a lot of challenges around mobility and disabilities, which means that finding the right kinds of programs, whether it's Section 8 or other, is just challenging. But through a lot of time and perseverance and good leadership and the right partner, that's what we were able to accomplish with what a great use of ARPA funds to do that. So that's really what we have for you this evening. We're all ears if you have any questions. Again, we don't have any recommendations for you, but we're anxious to hear what you think of the program now. Thank you.
Counselor Hoppe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. The reduction in the calls for service was pretty jaw-dropping when I read the memo, and I'm glad that it has been so successful for our community. And I just had one thing about the ordinance, and I just wonder, because in the section 11569, the implementation schedule, it has number 5, it's the last one there, and it talks about on or before and every 18 months thereafter, council shall conduct a review of the implementation of this article and shall consider any amendments deemed appropriate in response to that review. And I just wonder if this is something that can be, if this is something we can maybe amend or even get rid of at this point. We've had the ordinance since 21. It's been working well. We've already made some changes to it one time. If you guys are coming to us and telling us you don't have any change recommendations this time, then I think that maybe this could be something as per needed basis to make this presentation. And so I just wanted to bring that up to council to see how you guys feel about that.
Counselor Weaver? Or were you looking for a discussion?
I was not
on
asking
this
for,
item?
I was just asking, I'd like to know what your guys' opinions are on
Okay.
that. Yeah.
So thoughts on that, Mayor Pro Tem Stites?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Chief and Ally. This has been a home run. This is one of the things that when we have community meetings and when we have our District 3 meetings prior to 22, 23, it was, what are you going to do about the homelessness? What are you going to do about I-70 and Kipling? As you drive around the city, And I would, our ordinances on being on the sidewalks and being in the medians, that's helped quite a bit. And this has really, really cleaned up that area. And you just feel a lot safer being able to shop and transition through there. So big thank you to the chief and the staff, but to council too, for everybody, because I remember the news reports when we first enacted this, and it was going to be, we're throwing all these people out on the streets, and people were nitpicking, oh, well, they have to go somewhere with a pool and things like that. But this has been not only implemented well, but with compassion, and it's, I would dare say, made a lot of people's lives better. So thank you to you guys for doing that. I do believe I'm with Councilor Hoppy that we can amend this to be as an needed basis for the reviews. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Weaver.
Yes. I was just curious about the report. This is fantastic. All of the kudos, really, really appreciate it. I mean, everything that was said is really noticeable in District 3. I think it's really interesting, though, what you just said about the last story of people and their new situations and what the situation was. And I don't need you to go into it now, but I'm just wondering if that was documented in any way, because it seems like, I am sure you are seeing a snapshot of things that are happening sort of all over. And I'm just wondering if that could or will or does help other cities in understanding how to deal with something like that. Because I know you started this with you all have won awards for this policy and what we're doing. And I would love to see it sort of more highlighted, because it seems like it's an interesting story that has been unfolding, to your point. And it's been so slow that it's like, yeah, remember what it was like 5 years ago when we had this conversation, and it was bad. And you didn't want to even walk not that I walk to Target very often, but so I just want to thank you both, but I also think that there's a lot of, are you documenting it anywhere? Is someone documenting it anywhere? It just seems very interesting to me.
Well, I know that Family Tree documented obviously all the, we had discussed a little bit about how we might tell the story, and there was some discussion around should we retain photographic evidence, but it felt a little intrusive into people who were struggling already. So without being exploitive, if I can tell a little story, we're currently undergoing our assessment for our accreditation, which we go through an on-site every 4 years. The assessor is here from Missouri, actually next to Independence, Missouri. And he has his jurisdiction, the chief's jurisdiction, is right on I-70 with Budget Hotels. So when I was telling him the story of our hotels, he said, oh yeah, we go through that, and we get it tamped down, but then it comes right back. And that's the story of many people who don't have all of government influence. I think it's nice to roll out an ordinance or a licensing ordinance and then just hope that it works, but that's not what we did. And that's his struggle, is it's back to what it was, and it comes and goes. He also is in the same jurisdiction where one of our former hotel owners had their second hotel. So it's somebody that we're both familiar with. And they still retain that person. Our person didn't meet the values and moved on. But our story is well-known in the area. I don't know a better way to document it unless Ally knows of it. I think this has been a lot of lessons learned, things we didn't always anticipate along the way. As much as we tried to think ahead, we still ran into some challenges. But at every turn, there was a lot of minds put on it to how can we get over this next one. So maybe Ally writes the book, but we don't, I don't know that we have a person-by-person case here.
Well, yeah, and I think it's going to always be what's the next chapter, because it won't be done. I think we're sitting here saying, yeah, I think I completely understand. Maybe we don't need a check-in every 18 months, but we will be back before you at some point, because there'll be something new and we'll need to talk about it at some point, right? ownership will shift. That happened with the Motel 6. That owner sold. And so now we're spending a lot of time educating this owner and proving that it can be done, right? That's something when we hear from other hotels, well, it can't be done. We can't reduce criminal activity. Yes, you can. It requires investment. It requires good management. It requires, we've got good examples now to point to. But again, we're not going to take our foot off the gas, because if we do, we will start to slide. Don't you agree, Chief?
Yeah, I've seen it before personally and
Yeah.
in other places I've been, and I hear about it all the time. So if we don't stay vigilant with this, we'll have wasted a lot of time and resources, but I don't think that's the team that we have
We
or the
don't, yeah.
council we have right now that wants to see that go back. I agree. When I first got here, I was shocked at the level of activity and disorder around I-70 and Kipling, and that was really because the hotels were the anchor for that activity, and people had anonymity out there because there was so much going on. The council passed the ordinance, that I think was really designed for safety, but has really helped us, that just kept people out of the roadways and the median. When we saw dogs and children in the middle of the roadway, I think back to that. Council also did a lot of other things that I was reflecting on with that same assessor today, which was massage parlor ordinances and those kind of things. I think in total, they all played a part in some way of helping us to change this imagery around what is Wheat Ridge. It's not what you remember from I-70 and Kipling. It is the great place that it really needs, that people really need to know it for, not that one example over there. So I go to Larson's when they do their sale over there, and I'm not afraid to walk around even without my uniform and my service weapon. So I feel pretty good about that.
And just to answer your question, yes. So recently there was an article in Connections, it was the city manager's article actually, about the overall reduction in crime in Wheat Ridge. And the hotel license, this program played a big part in that narrative. So we will continue to tell that story. And just a little add on to this, I think something that I'm really personally very excited about is when the American does transform into its next iteration of this multifamily. And when you think about the stack that's going in on the east side of Kipling, right there between 44th and the frontage road, I'm really excited to see how those two developments bookend this corridor, perhaps with residents that do have expectations around supporting the local businesses that I think have sort of struggled over the years in that area. And, meanwhile, we will have deeply affordable housing along that corridor, especially at the Ville is a great example of deeply affordable. They're no longer doing nightly rentals. So, yes, we will continue to tell that story. Amanda Harrison and Alex Rose work really well together on making sure that we're continuing to get that out there.
It's just,
It's a great story.
well, I do want you to come back, I mean, whenever we need you, whenever you want to come back, but it's also really cool to hear this story. So thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief. I remember it wasn't that long ago when, we would hear about the, all crime in Wheat Ridge, 25% is in that corner, and how much it affected everything, from having, I had conversations with family about where am I going to stay at a hotel, and it's like, no, not in that corner. I think it's really amazing in 2 years how much that has changed. And not only can you can see it when you drive around, but now we're seeing significant investment, millions of dollars of looking at that corridor. It's more than turned a page, completely different. And I see a lot of hope for it. I support all your efforts. Please keep doing what you're doing. I think that it's got to improve everybody's life. The people that are managing the hotels, when people are driving and they want to stay in a hotel, that's kind of the billboard. If they have a good experience in Wheat Ridge or they have a bad one, and if they have a good one, they're like, hey, maybe I want to spend a little more time in Wheat Ridge. Maybe I want to, do an SDR. Maybe I want to buy a house in Wheat Ridge. And so, that's kind of our front door right there. And so I think it's really important, that policy that you created, with staff has been really good. When I've traveled to DC, for the National League of Cities, I've had conversations with other mayors and city council people from Colorado saying, this is what we're doing, and people from out of state of like, this is what we're doing, this is working. And so those are good things. So, you know, your word is going further than just Wheat Ridge. And I think that's good. I think we're making some good improvements. And I know there was a lot of concern when it first got enacted. I had constituents complaining about like, what are we gonna do with the people? And you know, I was concerned about that, but I also had concern too of like, you know, the way that they were living, is this a way for people to live? And it wasn't. It wasn't a good living situation. So just good news and thank you for all your efforts, everybody.
Thank you. Councilor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. And first, if I could ask for just a bit of clarification on the idea that Councilmember Hoppe put forward.
In our ordinance, it specifically says that staff has to come back every 18 months. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be in the ordinance. It could potentially be in as needed, or as changes come up, or as reporting necessary, instead of it being a mandatory reporting every 18 months.
Who's responsible for the reporting? Is this part of an inspection program? Or?
The chief and Ms. Scheck are responsible for the reporting.
But there is still a inspection periodically?
This is under in the ordinance, under section 11-569, it says implementation schedule. Specifically says under number 5, on or before June 30th, 2023, and every 18 months thereafter, the council shall conduct a review of the implementation of this article and shall consider any amendments deemed appropriate in response to that review. So it's not about how often they'll be doing their review of the hotels. It's how often they mandatorily have to come to city council.
Coming in here to tell us. Yeah. No, and that seems fine. It seems like something that doesn't necessarily need to be in the ordinance.
I believe when we first constructed it, it's kind of like Councilmember Ohm just said, it's kind of like a safety valve. Like if we found things that we neglected or things that were glaringly wrong or not working, then we had the opportunities to make sure it came back in front of us to be able to make those changes. We haven't made any of those changes since 2023. Or any more changes since 2023, and they have no recommended changes tonight. So I feel like it's okay to take that out, and staff can present as needed.
So yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. The first of the comments I have, and still being fairly new on the council here, I do recall when the discussion first came up in front of Planning Commission, and there was, it seemed fairly novel, and the idea of putting into the hotel license ideas around some of the criteria that we have in there, just made so much sense, and I think the results of all that work and the engagement of our departments here has certainly had some results. The questions I have specifically, well, first off, yeah, we heard this evening that probably the center of all of the concern was around the hotel with the biggest American flag along the interstate. Which, by the way, if you drive by now, that flag is getting so tattered that it almost brings a tear to my eye. But the first question I have is on what's now called the Vail and its best interstate, and I'd like to maybe get a little bit more into why we have not seen any real progress there. I mean, the rooms are still boarded up. There's materials stacked up in the parking lot. It seems to be that some contract trucks park there periodically, and they're there for days at a time. It's fairly unsightly, and I just would like to see us somehow have a nice, friendly discussion with the owner and see if we can't poke him a little bit.
Yeah, so good question. So that hotel used to be the Interstate Affordable Inn, was purchased by a gentleman out of Utah who has experience in converting these buildings from motels into affordable, deeply affordable apartment buildings, and he's in the process. He was doing there's two buildings. He was doing one building at a time. He took quite a while to relocate some folks. He had some folks that were not paying for many, many months, and he didn't want to kick them out overnight, so he spent a lot of time relocating folks or getting them on a payment plan. Then he had to go through the process of getting permits through the city, which he did. He's been approved. He moved everybody into one building, and he's focusing on one building at a time. The last update I got, because it has taken longer than we expected, he had a partnership issue. So also a financing issue. So it slowed it down quite a bit. I believe it should be back on track. I haven't had an update in a couple of weeks, but I will get an update. He is committed to finishing it. It was a significant partnership issue that did slow it down.
So we will see some activity this summer?
Yeah, it should. The last I talked to him, he was hoping he was gonna move everybody in the next month or so. So,
But there are still people residing there.
yes, in one building. They'll move over to the new building when it's done, and then he'll work on the second building and update that.
And are most of those people, will they be part of the long-term plans? In other words, will they stay there?
Some will, and his model is to work with agencies such as Family Tree and Jeffco Foothills Regional Housing to place folks who maybe have vouchers. A lot of the individuals do work, and they'll have on-site management services for those individuals as well.
Have we seen any actual design plans for that?
Yes, that's all with planning department. Yep.
Okay. Are they available?
Yeah, there'll be public documents. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then on the other side of the highway with the Motel 6.
Yes.
And I can completely agree with what we've seen with that. Once the lighting was enhanced and the fencing, the heavy-duty wrought iron fencing went up with the automatic gate, and then the requirement that no cash would be accepted, although still people will stay there with vouchers, and that's understandable. But just overall, I've noticed every time I drive by there, and I drive by there a lot, there are maintenance workers, there are groundskeepers, there are people, there's activity there. So the whole image of that location has been improved 100%. It just looks so much better. It looks like a place that a family traveling on Interstate 70 would not mind staying in. So I have to compliment the new owners there, and I think they've done a tremendous job. Last summer, when I was with some volunteers, we went around and knocked on some doors for some of the businesses along the corridor there. The common theme was, when does the American close? Obviously, the sooner that happens, the better. But I do understand the concerns that Xcel has, because if I understand their grid, right at the target is sort of the nexus for several of their high power lines coming through there. I know whenever somebody does something that they shouldn't, and that power station blips out, it affects my house. So we're all in the same little community there, and I would encourage our friends at Xcel to get to work, sharpen their pencils, and get to work on that. We mentioned Family Tree, and I just wanted to follow up on that real quickly. Was it we or was it Family Tree? How did we contact the people that were eventually we found housing for, they found housing for? How did we know about them?
Yeah, we partnered with the hotel owners and with Family Tree, and sort of between us and Marianne and her team, our homeless navigator, Rebecca was here at that time. We did, I think, code enforcement placed door hangers on every single door. We, as part of the hotel inspection program, they would go through with flyers in English and Spanish, So there was a sort of an initial intake form, I think, Marianne, if I'm remembering correctly. I mean, it required the guests to self-identify as wanting help. You know, when we put information there in front of them, but it did require them to say, yes, I understand what's happening and I want some help. And I think some were slow to take up on that. And I think that's why the program lasted almost 2 years. It wasn't the sort of 12-month that we initially thought it would be. It took a lot more time and patience to hang in there, but multiple visits. I mean, chief staff between code enforcement and then the crime prevention team are out there on the ground a lot, meeting with the management, meeting with the folks working at the desk. And I think it was a lot of that work that got us in front of the individual residents. It's not like you do a social media post and no, I mean, it was real gritty, boots on the ground, hands-on work.
I just have to congratulate all that effort because that's tremendous.
Well, and thanks to Marianne, she's here and she led that team. It was, and the
Yeah.
folks at Family Tree, they truly are remarkable in the work
Well,
that they do.
and it's good to
Yeah.
know that we're not the place that people come to find their stolen car.
I know. What are we going to be known for now?
Thank you.
We'll figure something out.
Thank you, Councilor Larson.
Counselor Hulteen.
Thank you. The numbers are just astonishing. It was really, the numbers are astonishing. It was really exciting to see those. I want to first speak to Councilmember Hoppy's suggestion. I am really open to removing the 18-month. I'd like to keep it for one more cycle, in part because the American Hotel is not closed. And I'm also curious about sort of like some of the longer term durability. Like, this is really exciting, but it is still somewhat newish. So I would like to propose keeping on one more 18-month cycle, and hopefully it's a brief update, but we've been naming a couple of still like lingering problematic hotels, and not everybody's below the line. We are very optimistic about American Hotel, but I would prefer to keep it for one more 18-month cycle, and then I'd be really happy to take that requirement out. But I'm just one of 7 of us here. Only in this conversation, we've underscored how problematic this area has been for long term. This is like a deeply systemic, this has been extraordinary work that has really turned it around, and I'm confident the momentum and collaboration will keep it going in this direction. But we still do have a couple that aren't quite there, and if the American Hotel had closed, I'd probably be more open to it. But I also have every faith that there's something before 18 months that you need from us, you'll bring it to us and we can contemplate it. But I think just our community members care about it. So I think the transparency of bringing it here is good, and we can make it hopefully a very short agenda item. But that's my thought on that. I have to say, when I saw the first hotel picture, I didn't even think it was in Wheat Ridge, because I'm not used to seeing pictures of hotels and motels and being like, oh, that looks really nice. So I am excited for family members to be able to stay in a hotel in Wheat Ridge. I also want to comment on Councilmember Weaver's suggestion about the storytelling. I mean, I know that within our circles, both through like the police departments and civic circles, but I mean, I think this is a CML or NLC presentation, but the leading with the human-centric piece of it, like it's almost easy to do like a really successful ordinance that isn't like accounting for the people on the other side of it. And I think that's the Wheat Ridge story, is that we weren't just trying to clean up the hotels and motels and addressing like the calls for service, but rather really making sure that our community has somewhere safe to live. When you were describing the inside living conditions of those units, I mean, that's like really hard to hear. Those are our neighbors and our community members. And it's just shocking to me that we haven't had one of the hotels burned down. So I think, this has done just such a tremendous service, and I hope we really can continue to tell that story, because I'm really proud of that part of our work here, and that's how we used our ARPA funds. I think that's the highest and best use of that. So just want to thank everyone, and just really want to acknowledge our staff for working together. I mean, those numbers are just absolutely mind-blowing. So good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Dozman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. I will agree that it was pretty astounding, and I will say as someone who grew up near this area and is now raising children in this area, the transformation is extremely visible, and this is really a testament to what good governance is capable of. We were very thoughtful and considerate in the policymaking. We did lead with compassion first, and I think that this should be a pilot project for Lakewood. Right? All right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Chief or Ally, I wanted to take the story from a slightly different point of view. What would your restaurant or your hoteliers tell you? What is their story? Are they happy about this? Has this been a big burden and without a good return? Does it ever an ROI that they're happy about? And
I think the ones that we had concerns about wouldn't say that they love the program. But we have forged a greater partnership with all of them. I mean, it always felt like we were trying to reach out and weren't getting much back. But now I think that partnership is much stronger. We've seen a lot of new ownership, right, from the Affordable, which is the Apple, and the Best Interstate, get that backwards, and the Motel 6. Those folks are happy to call us and talk about how they can resolve their issues. And that's so much stronger. Tony from over there has been, engaged with us. Our folks from our crime prevention office who really deal with them on a daily and weekly basis really have good relationships. Pick up the phone, call, hey, I see your gate's not working. You need to get that fixed. Yep, we're on it. Got a ticket for Tuesday. It's that simple, where before it was quite different. And so I'm happy to say it's a collaborative one. I think it also lends to good business connections there to say, hey, we're not trying to put you out of business. We're trying to make it right. And so for those folks who are participating and understand why we needed to do this, I think it's been great. There's always a few that were outliers, and I think generally they're not with us anymore, so I'm happy to say that.
all right, well, good, that sounds,
Mayor, if I could just add one thing real
Yeah.
quick. Now that we're at this point and we have hotels that are operating very well, could we offer them some sort of a bonus for being a licensed hotel? The Wheat Ridge Hotel stamp of approval, something like that, so when somebody looks up on the internet and they see they're driving by the Motel 6 at Kipling on I-70, they say, oh, it's been approved. It's a good facility, it's safe, it's just off the top of my head, but it's like, whenever somebody takes a few steps and they come out better at the other end, they should be recognized.
I would say they're being recognized with more business. I hope so.
And
I
they
think
get a business certificate every year in the mail. Hotel license certificate.
Let us brainstorm that.
Yeah.
And they,
It's a good idea.
Let us brainstorm that.
They
Because
get,
yeah, and I think there's some way potentially I think there's some that still have some work to do. But I think there's some that have made strides that we may be able to honor in some way that could do what you're describing. So we'll talk about that. Yeah, thank you.
five golf bucks.
Golf bucks,
Golf bucks, yeah.
coffee with the city manager,
300 golf bucks is equal to
personal visit by the mayor.
okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Goff.
I just got a quick update from the owner of the Ville. He hopes to be leasing by the end of May. So, yeah, they did run into some snags that got stalled, but he's hoping it's on track. Yep.
Well, Ally and the chief, thank you very much for bringing that presentation.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I wanted to.
Oh, you had
try to-
another,
Yeah.
I just,
Well,
Tunnel-
so
tunnel
trying to thread the needle between what I've heard from our other council members, I wonder if we can look at doing something like, we can change number 5 to say, updated presentations to council if there's a failure to be licensed or as needed for amendments, and ask staff to, that would be in the ordinance, and then ask staff to come and give us an update when we get the final information on the American Motel, seeing that it is really our only outlier on the list. And so I'm going to ask for consensus to see if we can change section 11569, number 5, to and it might not go in this section. I was looking through it to see if there's a better section for it to go, but to remove 5 from that section and to add in the ordinance where appropriate that staff will update city council if there is a failure to be licensed or as needed for future amendments. I'd like to ask for consensus for that.
Can I speak to that maybe
Yeah.
first? I think failure to license might be a little too specific. We occasionally get that anyway, that we may have to go after them. I'd hate to have a hotel that's not licensed and we're working with them, and then is it our expectation?
Well,
to come back with a
so, I mean,
report?
because if they don't get licensed,
Yeah.
then you guys give them extensions, right?
We
So they wouldn't
can.
necessarily be
Yeah.
failed at that
Yeah.
point. They'd be in an extension status.
It's just a little concerning. It's so specific to put in an ordinance. Could keep it more general, maybe? Just,
How do you say?
just updates if, when needed, as needed, at leadership's discretion or something like that. Would you be okay with that? It's just because there's so many nuances that I'd hate to be too specific in the ordinance, because then we'd have to go back and change that again.
Okay, yeah.
If you're
I'm okay
comfortable.
with that. Yeah, updated as needed. But then I'd just like to ask also that staff will come and give us a presentation when the American Motel does get.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have consensus then?
Looks like we have consensus on that. Do we have other discussion before I conclude this one? All right, anyway, Chief,
Thank you.
thanks. Ally, thank you. Great presentation. With that, we'll go to agenda item number 3. This is the outdoor pool replacement community engagement scheme.
Scheme.
Is this a scheme,
It's not a scheme.
program?
Program. Engagement. I don't, so. You can go. I think this is short. Should we ask them? Should we ask them now? Are there going to be any updates on kangaroo or washes that you need sheet to stay for? Okay, all right.
Hey, Brandon, how you doing? Good, good to see you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, ready? Mr.
Go.
Lake Raiders, thank you. We've been teasing this up, I think, for a while. The outdoor pool at Anderson Park, as you all know, is very popular for our community and in the region, and it is coming close to its useful life. Is that a good way to put it? We've been Band-Aiding it for quite some time, and so we have brought staff together. We're looking at a community engagement process to start engaging our community to ask them what they would like to see in a new pool. So, Karen, are you going to introduce it, or do you want me to turn it over to Brandon and Sarah, or?
I can do that.
We got our whole staff here, but Karen, go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to speak with you this evening about Anderson Pool. Patrick really kind of teed up the issue for you, and you'll see in the council memo that we talked about too, that City Manager Goff and I have been looking at different funding opportunities, perhaps COPs. We don't have a solution for that component yet. We know it's a very expensive project and it's something that we're looking into. There aren't a lot of grants, unfortunately, that fund this type of project, but our grant and special project administrator extraordinaire over there that everyone knows, Brandon, has been working really hard. And there is one that we mentioned that we will be seeking in the council memo, and he can answer any questions about that you might have. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over. Sarah Heisdorfer is our aquatic supervisor. She's fabulous. I think you've all met her before. She's presented at council. And then Brandon will be talking also about the engagement strategies that we are utilizing to move forward to talk with the community, educate folks on the issues that we're facing with the pool and how we'd like to move forward. So Sarah, take it away.
Thank you again for letting us speak with you about this. My job is to give you a little bit of the background on this project. So Anderson Pool originally opened in 1979. Anderson received a facelift in 2008, but much of the original build from 1979 was left in place as a part of that 2008 renovation. Furthermore, that 2008 renovation included infrastructure that's not adequate for the commercial heavy use that the pool is seeing on a regular basis. And because of this age and inappropriate infrastructure, Anderson Pool is reaching the end of its useful lifespan. Within the next 3 to 5 years, Anderson Pool will need to be closed indefinitely or replaced. So what are the issues? You can see some of our issues up on the screen. These are photos of a project that we completed in spring of 2024 where we chased and replaced 7 clean pipe breaks just in the family pool alone. So in 2023, a pool assessment was conducted by a contractor with significant experience in commercial pool builds, renovations, and maintenance. At the conclusion of this pool assessment, the short-term investment that was identified as necessary to maintain safe and sustainable operations of Anderson Pool was $1.1 million. This assessment did not include estimated costs for recurring maintenance needs or long-term costs, which will be much higher. The major issues identified include that all but the west wall of the lap pool is original from 1979, and any renovation would require a complete rebuild of those old parts to bring it up to current codes. This would be needed regardless due to wear and tear on the old build. The family pool was built and doweled onto the existing pool slab from 1979, and the age and movement of the slab, combined with a high water table, has led to significant damage to the pipes that serve the family pool. And that's the photos of what you see up there. With 7 clean pipe breaks repaired about a year ago, we still were seeing leaks at the end of 2024's summer. The wall between the family and lap pools added in the 2008 facelift has inadequate structural steel, and it is deteriorating rapidly. This causes faster than normal damage to the pool shells. There are many more issues beyond these that contribute to difficulty and increasing expenses in operating the facility. These infrastructure issues noted contribute to a greatly reduced lifespan for mechanical equipment, which further increases operating and capital costs to maintain the facility.
Go ahead, next slide, please, Karen. Thank you. So our timeline for this engagement project is April 1st to August 15th of this year. And those dates are chosen for a lot of reasons. Our summer activity guide for the Parks and Rec Department went out and was published on April 1st. We wanted to make sure that this information got in there, so we can promote it that way. It also encompasses our entire pool season. It allows us to table throughout the summer at the pool and also at major Wheat Ridge events like Ridge Fest, Carnation Festival, our summer concerts. And it gives us some time before the school year is out this spring to go into elementary schools and talk to kids there. So we have that time frame set up for those reasons. And also Karen mentioned a grant I'll talk about later that is scheduled to open and close in August. We're going to be prepared for that with our public engagement data ahead of that time frame. Our goals for this work are to educate the residents about the issues that Sarah described at a high level so they understand what's going on with the pool. It's their community pool and why we're looking at replacement versus like a partial renovation. We also want to determine if there is community support for replacing the pool versus potentially community support for just closing the pool when its lifespan does end eventually. So we want to get an answer to that question. With that, we want to be able to quantify what pool amenities the community supports more than others. And that can help inform a design phase in the future if the community does indeed support replacement. And then lastly, we want to make sure that we talk to a good subset, spectrum-wide of the community and stakeholder groups that use the pool. So groups like swim clubs, swim lessons, camps, lap swimmers, our service orgs, our business organizations. We want to try and talk to as many of those groups as possible to get their feedback about the pool and also encourage them to take our survey so we have their data and their feedback included. So. Thanks, Karen. Our promise to the public on this topic, and this is mostly from a transparency perspective, is that the pool is indeed nearing the end of its lifespan, and it's not economical to renovate or fix the issues without fully replacing the pool. So our options are a full replacement or a closure at some point. That's going to be expensive if we go with the replacement option. We want to make sure that that's understood and communicated out well throughout this process. We also want to make sure that we use the public's feedback to inform our decisions. And there's those two decisions we're looking at right now. The first is, does the community want to replace the pool or not? And the secondary decisions are, what amenities would we include in a hypothetical replacement pool? And then we also want to make sure we serve a variety of those community groups, and that one special interest group doesn't necessarily dictate the direction of the engagement and have an outsized voice in this process. With that, we certainly have limitations with what's realistic for this project. Obviously, budget is a major one, and that'll define what can actually be accomplished with the project. The city budget will be a major factor, but as Karen mentioned, unfortunately, there seem to be limited grants available that are open to funding this type of work. Some of our major park and rec funders, GOCO, Jeffco Open Space, Cardinal Health Foundation, we've talked to those already, and they don't fund public pools for a variety of reasons. But there is one opportunity coming up in August that we hope to apply for, and it's the Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership Program. And it's a subset program of the Land Water Conservation Fund, which is a federal program that uses oil and gas production leases to fund park and rec projects. And in 1977, the Land Water Conservation Fund actually funded the original construction of Anderson Pool. And because it was originally built using that funding, Anderson Pool is automatically eligible to apply in the future for this funding. And this ORLP program, the Outdoor Rec Legacy Partnership, is designed to fund larger, more expensive projects than the standard LWCF program. So we're going to apply for that, assuming it opens and closes as scheduled this summer. There has been plenty of federal grant uncertainty recently. We do hope that this program continues because it does have a dedicated revenue stream from those oil and gas leases. So we hope it's not as discretionary as other grant programs that are being frozen or cut. And also, the current president fully funded LWCF back in 2020 through the Great American Outdoors Act. So we hope that that funding continues, at least for the near future, for our project proposal. So another limitation is that while we're looking at the pool deck and not the building, because the building was renovated in 2019, one exception to that is the mechanical room that's part of the building does need to be fully replaced, and that's original to 1977. So with the pool work, that room also needs to be replaced. The space of the pool, if you can picture the fencing around the pool, our opinion is that we need to stick to that footprint. Because if we go any direction, we lose either our park shops or one of our limited full-size soccer fields in the city to the south, or we're impacting the street through the park, which would probably impact the baseball diamond, or the buildings to the north. So we're kind of hemmed in all directions, space-wise. And then lastly, and this goes without saying, but we want to make sure any design and construction meets or exceeds every accessibility and safety standard for outdoor pools. So those are what we're working within this project. Our engagement methods, we have a What's Up Wheat Ridge project page live currently that went live March 31st. We also have a public survey on that page, and that is our main engagement data collection. We haven't even had it open a week. We already have 45 responses, so that's excellent. We're going to be doing some kids activities with elementary schools and with different summer camps that use the pool. And we're going to be tabling at the pool one day of the week throughout the summer. So one Monday, one Tuesday, et cetera, throughout the pool season, as well as at the community events I mentioned, like Ridge Fest, Carnation Festival, and a concert series. We're also going to be going to stakeholder groups like City Council tonight, like the Parks and Rec Commission coming up, business organizations, service orgs, and talking to them, giving them a similar presentation as this as to what we're looking to do and to get their feedback and input about the project. And we're also been doing a lot of digital and physical communication. So we'll have an article in the May Connections newsletter. We're hoping to have an article in the May Gazette newspaper. We're going to have social media postings, website information, and other distributions at the pool and online throughout the next few months to promote this project, make the public aware of the issues, and also encourage them to give their feedback if they'd like to. This is a picture of our survey online. I think the last slide was a screenshot of just the What's Up Wheat Ridge page if you go to that. And that's the information we have tonight. I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, Counselor Hulteen.
Thank you. I've said this many times. I moved to Wheat Ridge in part because of this pool. So I really hope that this pool gets support from the community and we find sources of funding. I'm really encouraged by the community outreach that's been put together here. I mean, this is really robust and thorough. My couple of questions on it. One is sorry, let me go back a little bit. I think it's important as part of this outreach. I would think as a citizen, like, why are we asking this question? Why can't the city just fix it? I mean, we're saying it's incredibly expensive, but I think a lot of times community members don't have a sense of like scale when it comes to what's expensive in the city. So I think to whatever extent it's possible, I mean, there's not a pathway forward in which this just comes out of our budget. And I think communicating that is important, that for it to move forward. And I don't want it to be discouraging. I want people to want the support, but ultimately we're going to be needing grants. We're going to maybe need support from our elected officials in Congress. Like there's a whole body of people who are going to want to get behind the monetary ways of seeing this. So I think however we're approaching the why it's too expensive for it to not just come out of our budget and that the funding's gonna have to come from somewhere is probably not what we're talking with elementary school kids about, but when we're talking with our partners, with like the community organizations, that feels really important. And I think secondly, I'm curious about the bringing together the vision for what it could be with the binary question of like, do we move forward with making this reinvestment in our community or do we not? I like it because I think people get excited about re-envisioning like what a pool could be. And I think that makes people want to make it happen. But then do we see coming back if we get a yes with a planning process to ask that question again, or are we taking information from this process that will then inform like what the pool would look like? It seems like it's kind of, we're asking compounding questions, and I'm just wondering how we're planning on parsing out that data we get from our community.
Yeah, with the amenity questions, this would be the first round of asking that question. And if we can fund a design, it would probably go into the concept work of the design that would give us a few options for layouts. But there would need to be, assuming we fund design, multiple more engagement rounds to go to the community and show them the design levels and drafts and get more feedback on what would be included in the pool design. Another reason we're asking that question is if the community really supports certain amenities, we can then include that in an estimate for the design and construction, and we can take that more accurate estimate and apply for this grant in August and have a better idea of what those amenities would cost.
Okay. Just an idea, and I don't know if this fits in with your community engagement outline, but I'm wondering if at some point, maybe a little bit towards the end of this process, we could actually host an event at the pool with like some of our key community leaders where we're talking, as, like senior city staff's there to answer some of the more like big picture questions, but actually host something at the pool to, I think being on site with some of our community connectors and leaders who are going to be invested in the success of this project if our community says they want it to happen. I think figuring out a way to actually host something at the pool so we're having that conversation and fielding those, I think, bigger questions would be really valuable so that as we emerge from this, hopefully triumphant with an overwhelming squeal of delight for a pool to get replaced, that we've got that like just tangible buy-in of what it looks like so that we can keep moving forward. Thanks.
Yeah. I think that would be a phenomenal thing to see the community come together and bring in the community leadership to speak to it. As Brandon noted, there are already lots of tabling events planned, but not necessarily anything bigger than that at this point. But that is something certainly that we can consider adding in.
Thank you. Counselor Ohm.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Brandon, Karen. So a couple questions I had was, have you done an assessment of which are the biggest users, whether it's is it the families, is it the lap pool users? I know those are, and they're different groups. Is there one that's more prevalent?
Total users, you probably know just anecdotally.
Total users or total visitors in summer of 2024 was just under 25,000. That doesn't include counts for our daily swim team users, as that's accounted for separately, likewise with our swim team. But those are numbers that we look at for sure. We can't necessarily get super detailed with what people do when they choose to visit us for open swim. Are they using it for lap swim? Are they using it for leisure? That's a little harder to parse, but it is something that we track over time.
And then could we do something that City of Arvada, the Apex did with partnering with Jeffco? They use the property taxes, like 50% of the property taxes to fund their $35 million pool.
I believe a lot of that funding came from the school board, Jeffco School Board. That facility is a year-round facility that serves 5 area high schools, hosts weekly swim meets for the area high schools, as well as the Jeffco Invite Meet and the Jeffco League Meet. So they had a very, very vested interest in getting that funded. I believe they funded about half of that total cost. I'm not familiar with the property tax part of that funding, but I do know that the majority of that funding is something that we're unlikely to be eligible for because we don't overlap with our high school swim season, so they are not one of our primary group users.
So are you looking at like phasing or bonds?
We're looking at anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if we're successful with this grant, it could hopefully pay for at least the design portion and maybe even some construction, I think, is potential. But, one option for a city is to do COPs where you put another property up for collateral. You could put the rec center up for collateral and go out and issue COPs to finance it. I don't know if we even mentioned anywhere tonight what we think the cost would be. So we're maybe 15 million-ish or something.
10 to 15.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a stack of different financial options to make it work. Maybe the general fund could support some of it as well. But yeah, that's what we need to, first of all, figure out what it's going to cost and then figure out how much the grant will cover, then figure out the rest.
And then my last comment is if down the road, I don't know, I think it could be a little hard to tell people like you're going to get exactly what we have right now, that they might want something a little newer. So if you could take a look at things like having some type of TV screen for like movies and stuff at the pool to make it something a little bit different. I've also seen some, I don't know what they're called. I'll just say climbing wall, but they're different things that we're not used to that might make it a little more interesting, that people might get excited. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Dozman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. This makes me really sad. I grew up going to this pool. It's within walking distance of my house. So I really hope that the community decides to reinvest in this amenity, because I think it's a wonderful one that we are able to offer to our families. You did answer one of my questions in regard to the Anderson building that was updated with some of the 2E funding. So it sounds like that wouldn't be changed in any way, shape, or form aside from the mechanical room. So would it be that exact same footprint? And do you anticipate changing like the concession stands and the bathroom that's currently not being used?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that it would be the exact same footprint. It's just the size and shape of the overall space can't really expand. But in terms of the layout and what pools and the number of pools and all of that, I mean, that's open to design. for sure. And concessions, same.
Okay, that sounds
Yeah.
great. And I agree with Councilmember Ohm and, you know, just getting creative as to what we can put into a new community pool that might be just a little bit more community gathering. But 25,000 users in 2024, that's a lot. So, I mean, that's almost as much as we have in residents of the city of Wheat Ridge. It's just 5,000 under. Like that's a huge number for only 3 months of a season. So I really hope that we can move forward, and I look forward to participating in the engagement opportunities. So thank you for bringing this to us. And one other question as far as just timeline too. Do you have an idea of like when the pool would be closed and construction may begin, or is that just kind of to be determined based on the engagement?
Yeah, I would say it's to be determined based on funding, probably more than anything, but in an ideal world, we would do design at any point leading up to or during the summer season, but construction, you start as soon as the pool closes, you work through the winter, and you open for Memorial Day. And it can work, provided the weather complies, but and you don't have too many delays, but that in an ideal world, I don't know what year that will be, because again, it depends on our funding, but.
Thank you. Counselor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for Brandon, is the survey up online already?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay. The type is a little small, wasn't able to read it there, so I'll have to go. And in there is when we ask people what they think, is there any way we can sort of like tell the survey taker that if we do decide to build a new pool, it's going to cost a lot of money? And I'm not sure how you measure that if the question's not already asked. But it is clear that the city's going to have to make a decision. Close or redo. There's no halfway measures here. If we decide, well, the other thing to think about though is that if somebody that doesn't have the sort of nostalgic emotional attachment that Councilmember Dosman has, could say that, in the light of day, Wheat Ridge already has a pool, a very nice pool and a recreation center, and it's all kinds of amenities that go with it. So if Anderson Pool was to go away, we would still have a place to go swimming and doing other things. The idea that popped in my head was, have we, or would we consider, outside of issuing some sort of bond, just approaching a private company and saying, okay, we'll give you a part of this, we'll have some kind of a financial arrangement in terms of the property, but you guys fund the building of a new pool at this space, you guys operate it, you guys keep the revenue.
With the first question on the project cost on the website, that's setting a great FAQ we should add. This is the estimate we have for design being, I think, about $1 million just for design, and then a $10 to $15 million range for construction. That would depend on the design and when this is built and inflation and things like that. But I think we should add that so residents understand what we're talking about here in terms of cost. And then the last piece you're talking about, I don't know if we have explored that. Generally, this type of amenity probably loses money. So there'd be that impact as well.
Yeah, it's something we haven't looked at seriously, but I think everything should be on the table. It's a good point, good question. I think we'll investigate that, see if there's any models out there of that.
Again, not to put a real fine point on
Yeah.
it, but we are going to have to make a decision.
Sure. Yep.
And sooner rather than later. I would think.
And I don't know if there's any examples of a pool operation like that, but there's certainly, like I know in Castle Rock, they have a climbing amenity that's, and with like a zip line and thing that's privately operated. And there's probably some other things, but I don't know about pools, but we could look into it for sure. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Counselor Dosman.
So that just kind of brought up the idea of like, what about private partnerships? and them funding? How would that work, or would it work?
Yeah, any private-public partnership that's out there. I'm not sure how many models there are, but we'll definitely investigate. Maybe there's a good option. Yeah.
Sponsors, naming rights, things like that.
Yeah.
And we have a great listserv, both in our state organization and our national organization, that we can pose questions and see if other organizations are doing something like this. So great questions to ask. Thank you.
Additional discussion on this item? All right, sounds like a great presentation. Looks like we need to go out and get some work done to see what our community thinks and see how we can finance it at the end of the day. So, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming
Thank
in.
you.
Folks.
Okay, that concludes our study items. Mr. Goff, I think we're going to
Staff reports?
staff reports.
Sure. The chief, I asked the chief to say if you have any, if you want any updates on a couple of items that came up in the last couple of meetings. The car wash issue on 44th Avenue. We have continuing to work with them, I think, on a daily basis. We have cited them for noise violation, and they are actively working to provide some noise mitigation efforts in their operations. But beyond that, I'll maybe turn it over to the chief with any updates.
Yes, we've been very active in taking sound readings out there. They've disconnected some of the blowers at their outside vacuums to try and come in compliance, and they're currently applying soundproofing to the door system. However, they're unable to close the doors that face the 44th Avenue because of the moisture buildup on their sensors. So working through that to see what that ultimately does, and keeping in contact with the neighborhood and the neighbors, and giving them sort of a blow-by-blow update of where we stand. The citation ensures that at some point, either this is resolved prior to a court date, or it goes to court for resolution. Also working with community development on their business, on their permit, I guess, because of some of the representations in there. So it's in progress, and we know it's a community issue, and we're trying to make it a priority for us. Also, I can't remember which counselor brought it up, maybe Counselor Hulteen asked about other car washes. Was that you, Counselor? And so we're out measuring those car washes for their sound at the property lines to see what that looks like, and I'll have a better report for you in the near future on how their sound is traveling to the property lines. However, we haven't found nearly as egregious violations so far in our checks of those ones. So that's it on
I
that.
believe their court date is May 5th, I believe, or 2nd or 5th, so almost a month. So we're hoping they make these improvements beforehand, but they still will have to go to court, I believe.
Yep.
Counselor Ohm.
I got a follow-up question on noise. And by the way, I did meet with the neighbors. It's a really tight community, very friendly. They were very, thoughtful, concerned, and they really had a lot of respect, and thanked the police department for coming out there. They mentioned Eric very many times, so appreciate that. The other thing is, what did we ever find out about the shooting range on 38? And the reason I asked that is because I had a person there that said they could hear it off of Gray Street north of Randall Park once in a while. It wasn't that loud, but they were just talking about that as well.
Yeah, we've been working, Cole and Marianne has been working on this very hard with the property owner and the neighborhood, been reaching out to them. We did the city paid for an environmental or an assessment of the acoustical assessment of the building, and they came back with some recommendations for improvements. The Urban Renewal Authority has agreed to pay for those. I think it's 30,000-ish, and those are under, those are being done now. So we're hoping that there'll be some improvements.
That's great news. Thank you.
More staff reports?
I don't have any staff reports. Ally or Chief, do you have anything else you want to give updates on?
Unless anybody wants to hear about
Any other
kangaroos.
questions?
The ruse. Yep, so that fortunately or unfortunately falls in my venue by by the ordinance. So I've been in contact with the owners of that. We've had a lot of back and forth. They submitted their plans, reviewed the plans, and have offered them a waiver with conditions. Mr. Dahl, who's probably listening now, is probably not in love with me because I had a long list of conditions, but there are conditions on the care and treatment of the animals, on the business and the business operation, and just on general following of general good practices out there. So there's a lot of conditions on that for which could revoke the waiver, but I do know that they operate another facility in Golden without really complaint that we could see, and there's other businesses around the country that are similar in nature. So while I am empathetic to the plight of animals, their representation is that they are going to treat these animals well, and they go home every night to Adams County, and that's where they are housed. And so we're making sure the housing here is secure, safe, the community is, there are, safeguards on top of safeguards for the animals. So if they can meet those stipulations, that'll move to building or to community development, and they will follow up with the inspections on that. So possible we will have kangaroos in the city.
That it, Chief?
Unless
On
there's
kangaroos?
questions, yeah.
Just one quick other staff report. We will be asking for an executive session after next Monday's. I'm sorry, Corey, I haven't talked to you about it yet. Mr. Dahl and I just talked about it after next Monday's meeting to talk about the Wadsworth project and the pending litigation or mediation with Concrete Works on the contract. So want to give an update on that. Hopefully it won't take too long. That's all.
That's all you've got? We'll go to elected officials reports. Are there any elected officials? Counselor Dozeman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to invite the community to join our Parks and Rec Easter egg hunt this Saturday, April 12th. It begins at 10 a.m. and it's at Anderson Park, which we were just talking about. So it'll be at the back of the park near the pavilion, and it's always a great time. So I hope to see everyone there.
Terrific. Counselor Larson?
And tonight's Safety Minute is, April is Dig Safely Month. If you plan to dig in your yard, call 811. Just don't even question it, just do it, right? The other thing is, and it was mentioned earlier, it has to do with Creekside Park. I walk the dog up there at least once or twice a week, and the dog pointed out a sign that's posted up there about the trail improvements that we helped get started with the city of Denver and Jefferson County and the city of Wheat Ridge to conduct a survey about realigning the trail that goes from Creekside Park up to 52nd Street in Denver. And I would recommend that if you're interested in that issue at all, you can go to Denver, I'm sorry, I think it's Denver's, denvergov.org, Park Projects. It's the Clear Creek Trail Grade Separation. There's a position paper on that. Take a survey. There are 5 choices about where that trail might go. Some of them are kind of interesting. One of them would require actually acquiring either a property or right away through the batch plant that's back there. But they all are interesting. They all are serving a very important need because as you know, when you exit the Creekside Park up at the top of the hill at Harlan, the trail basically ends, and you have to go down, and crossing 52nd Street can be hazardous sometimes. So most of the options include building an overpass or an underpass there. So if you're interested in that project at all, you might want to go onto the City of Denver's site and take that survey. And then the other part 2 of the question about Creekside Park is, it reminded me that last year at this time, the group of students from the Colorado School of Mines presented on their study of the hillside there at Creekside Park there and the erosion that's happened. And it was a very impressive survey. I'm sure you all recall how they covered all the bases with this. It was a very extensive, well-thought-out study by a group of probably the rocket scientists will be running the world in 20 years. In the meantime, my question is, are we, the city of Wheat Ridge, going to be looking at any sort of follow-up with that? Any sort of taking some of their thoughts and maybe coming up with some ideas to shore up that cliffside there, because you just have to walk by it and it looks like it's, there's some hazards there.
Yes, we do have some work underway right now, looking at, I think there's an RFP out right now, so we'll have some more information coming soon to council. Yep. And I can speak to your other Denver piece, that there was a public meeting last week. There were 18 people in attendance, I understand, and that survey already has 50 responses, so be sure to submit yours.
All right, very good. Mayor Pro Tem Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank Local Works for having us all out at the Makerspace last week for their 1-year Makerspace and 20-year for Wheat Ridge 2020 and Local Works. I also wanted to thank the mayor for allowing me. I'm going to be hosting the Coffee with the Mayor Pro Tem this Saturday at Vanola's at 9 a.m. So looking forward to see everybody there. Thank you.
Additional elected officials matters. I had only one. We have one of our counselors who is not ready to go. Okay? Okay, we will wait till announced. Is there any other business to come before us tonight? Before we adjourn, we will be back here 1 week from tonight for a meeting, regular council meeting on the 14th. Is there anything else that we should do before we stand adjourned?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, let's all go home then. Thank you.